Hey and welcome back, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how we can create a bass line using one of our synth instruments. So you can obviously, like in the previous lesson, use the Dr. Octo Rex loop layer to create some bass lines, or you can use any of the other instruments. Even you can even use the sampler to create a bass line. But we're going to use one of the synthesizers to create a quick bass line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute my Dr. Octo Rex bass line, and I'm also going to rename it. So here in your sequencer, you can see that it will have the name of the patch that we loaded. Mine is currently set to Raw Sushi 1, and I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to call this bassline. Just call it bassline 1 maybe. Alright, and then I'm going to mute it. So the way we're going to mute it is we're going to click on this M button under this bassline 1. So if I play this through, you can't hear the bassline. So we're just playing the drum loop. So in our browser, you're going to go to Instruments, and then we're going to add one of these instruments to create a bass line. So I'm going to go with a monotone bass synthesizer, but you can follow along with any of the others if you want to give it a try. So I'm going to drag this one underneath my Dr. Octo Rex player, and there we have our instrument. So if you don't have a MIDI keyboard, I'm going to open up my keyboard keys here at the bottom, and just so that we can kind of listen to the samples as I load them. So I'm just going to use the A button on my keyboard to kind of just listen to the current sample. So this should automatically open up this list of patches. If it doesn't do that, you can go to the factory sounds and then under monotone patches. If you double click on that, it's going to take you into that list. You can either use this, or you can click on the instrument itself and it's going to show you the patches right here. So it all depends on what you prefer. So I'm going to drag in some of these and let's have a listen. Okay, so I'm going to go with this fat synth repatch, okay? So you can listen, it's quite a nice fat bass synth sound. Alright, and then in the sequencer, I'm just going to put my left and right just over one bar. I'm just going to change my resolution to bar. And then under or next to my fat synth, I'm going to create a section here. So I'm going to double click like that. And then we're going to double click to go into that so we can actually draw our notes. And yeah, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to minimize my browser here on the side so we have a little bit more space here. And I'm going to zoom in slightly because we're only going to focus on this first bar, just this section. And then I'm going to change my resolution to 1/8. And then we're going to draw in a normal, like a offbeat, very simple bass line. Okay, so I'm going to go with maybe C3, and I'm going to take my pencil tool, and every second note I'm going to draw in a note. Okay, let's just move that one up like that, and then one there, there, and there. So let's have a play through that. So you can hear it's a very, very simple, just like an offbeat bass line. And now what I can do is I can select all these notes, and I want to make them slightly shorter. So I'm going to change my resolution here at the top to 16th. And I'm going to, with them all selected like this, I'm just going to make them half the size like that. And let's have a listen to that. Okay, that's pretty cool. And now I'm going to go out of edit mode, and I'm going to duplicate this 4 times. So I'm going to do the holding Alt, drag, drag, drag. And now let's put our right and left just around those 4 bars. And maybe I want to add some variation to this last one. So I'm going to double click on that. And maybe let's move one of these last notes just maybe a little bit around and see what we can get. Just a little bit of variation there at the end, and we can change the color if you want to. so we can see that section there. Let's have a listen to this whole section. Okay, very, very simple, but I think you can get the idea. Now, let's say we want to add an effect to this bass line. I want to add a little bit of a delay so we get a little bit more of a rolling bass line effect. So I'm going to go back into my browser, and then under effects, I'm going to add this digital delay line. And I want to add this to this monotone bass synthesizer. So I'm going to drag it just underneath it, and you'll see the little plus, release, and that means this will affect this instrument. So if I play through this, I'm just going to loop this first bar. So I'm just going to put the left and right around this first bar, and I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to adjust some of these settings on the delay on this little device. Okay, so as you can hear, that adds a little bit of more of a rolling effect. So I brought the dry wet down, so that will bring the delay, the amount of delay down, and then the feedback, that's the amount, or the amount of times that it's going to delay. So the feedback that's going to cause, if you increased it, it will just carry on and on and on, delay, delay, delay. And if I bring this down, it will make that feedback shorter. So just brought that down. You can even take it down all the way, but I think that sounds pretty cool. Let's listen to this whole section. Okay, what we can also do is we can change some of these settings on our bass line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute or solo, sorry, I'm going to solo this bass line. So just click on the S, and I'm going to loop through this, and I'm going to play with some of these settings, and let's see what we can get. So as you can see, you can do some crazy stuff here. I just played with the frequency and then this drive, and also adjusted this oscillator mix. But yeah, you can also play with these are the attack and sustain, all those settings. You can play with that, the envelope settings, and then it's also got a built-in chorus and delay that you can actually use as well. So you don't really have to add this delay effect if you are using this built-in delay. Some other instruments have built-in effects as well that you can use, but I'm just showing you here that you can add another effect here. What we can do, we can even add some reverb. So if I drag a reverb underneath this one, this will also affect the bass line. Let's have a listen. Okay, so the reverb might be a little bit too much, so I'm just going to click on the reverb, press delete on the keyboard, and then delete, and that's only going to remove that one device. So yeah, as you can see, it's really, really simple to use different instruments to create a bass line. You can give it a try with some of the other instruments as well. Maybe have a look at some of these, like the Subtractor synthesizer. I know there's some nice bass patches in there. Same with the Thor or this Europa. Go through them, play with them, and see which one you like to create your bass lines with. And yeah, just go into the piano roll and add some variations to your bass line there. See what you can come up with, and then remember to save your song. And I will see you in the next lesson.